Hello, my name is Pamela Hernandez. Let's go begin with the presentation. Good day. Today I will talk with you about the psychophysiology mechanism involvement, the segmentation mechanism of discrete change and internalized languages mechanisms, which talk about how the body reacts to what do we feel, how the language is organized, and what we express and how internal talks guides what we do. Understanding them will help us communicate better, think clearly, and take care of our emotional psychology well-being. We will begin with the psychophysiological mechanism involvement. These are the processes that connect the mind, the psychological, with the body, with the physiological. In a simple terms, they are the body's reaction that occurs as a result of what we feel, think, or and experience emotionally. For example, when you get scared, your heart beats faster, you sweat and breathe faster. This happens because your body reacts to the fear. If you get angry, your muscles tense up and make you feel hard or a pressure in your face. When you are happy or in love, your body releases endorphins and dopamine, substances that make you feel pleasure and well-being. If you have anxiety or stress, your body produces more adrenaline and cortisol, which can cause insomnia, headaches, or muscle tensions. Psychophysiological mechanisms are like a bridge between your emotions and your body. What do you think and feel has reacts effects on how your body functions. Now, we will talking about the segmentation mechanisms of discrete change. This is a linguistic process that allows discourse to divide into smaller, more understandable parts so that the ideas are organized and the message is clear to the listener or reader. In a simple terms, it's about how the people structure what they say or write, talk, pauses, punctuation marks, change into notation, or the use of connectors. This mechanism is fundamental communication. Since with the proper segmentation, the message could be confused or difficult to interpret. In a oral communication, the segmentation occurs naturally and spontaneously. For example, when the person speaks, they pause or change their tone of voice, allowing the listener to identify the end of one idea, the beginning of another. These pauses are not just moments of silence, but signals that help organize the speech. In a written language, the segmentation is active talk, punctuation marks, and grammatical reserve. Periods, commas, colons, semicolons, and connecting serve to divide the sentence and give them a logical meaning. For example, exercise is important for health because it helps control weight and improves mood. Are the commas and the connective because allow the reader to recognize that there is a relationship between two ideas, a cause and consequence. Without these elements, the text will be more difficult to follow or understand. The segmentation mechanism is also related to the coherence and cohesion of discourse. Coherence allows ideas to follow a logical sequence, while cohesion likes those ideas to connecting words or phrases. Both aspects depend on the proper segmentation. For example, in academic text, use of paragraphs, subheadings, and connectors such as the on the other hand, furthermore, however, or therefore helps to read follow the line of the arguments and losing tracks. This mechanism is not only applied to the formal text, but also to everyday life in a conversation, interview, public speeches, or even in a text messages. People use segmentation to express themselves clearly. If someone were to speak with a pauses or divisions, the message would become chaotic and difficult to understand. The segmentation mechanism of the discourse change is essential to organize ideas, facilitate understanding, and maintain messages currency, both in the speech and writing. Thanks to this process, the human being can communicate effectively, express complex thoughts, and establish clearly relationships between a different part of the speech. Segmentation discourse is what allows languages to make a sense. Well, the segmentation in practice, I present three examples. The first is the oral pauses, intonation guides listeners. And the second example is writing, commas, periods, connector, clarified relationship between the ideas. And the third example is the proper segmentation ensures coherency and understanding in the communication. And finally, we will look at the internalized languages mechanism. This refers to the process by which people use language within their minds without needing to speak out loud, to think, reason, plan, or understand the world around them. In other words, this is the internal dialogue or verbal thought that each person maintains with themselves and that allows them to organize ideas, make decisions, or anticipate what they are going to say or do. For example, when a young child is learning to tie their shoes, they often speak aloud, saying, "First, I take the lace toe, then I tie the knot." Over time, this verbal guidance becomes internalized, and the child no longer needs to say it aloud. They think the instructions without speaking them and internalize the language in action. This type of language play is a very important role cognitive development. Through internalized language, people can reflect and solve problems and control their emotions and plan actions. For example, before answering a difficult question, Someone might think internally. First, I say this, then I'll explain that. Similarly, when we feel anger or nervous, we often calm ourselves by thinking, relax, it's okay, breathe. In both cases, internalized languages act as a mental thought guide behavior. In everyday life, this mechanism is constantly at work. When we read, we transform the written text into an inner voice that gives meaning to what we understand. When we recall something, we use a mental words to reconstruct what happens. Even when we imagine a conversation or a speech, we do so through internally paraphrases, as if we were talking to our slaves. Although we may not always be aware of it. This is an internal languages guides a large part of thoughts and emotions. From an educational and psychological perspective, internalized languages is essential because it allows for the self-regulation of thoughts and behavior. Thanks to it, we can reflect before act, analyze our feelings, and correct mistakes. In a learning process, it helps the students understand concepts, formulate internal questions, and organize their knowledge there before. It's considered like a foundation for intellectual and emotional development. The internalized languages mechanism is the ability to use the languages as a way of thinking internally without speaking to the reason, plan, and understand. It is of the result of social learning process that transforms into an individual mental thought. Thanks to these internal languages, the human beings can build ideas, make decisions, and control their emotions, which shows that language not only serves communicate with others, but also to dialogue with themselves and giving a meaning to experience. In conclusion, understanding this mechanism allows us better understand how we think, feel, and communicate. Each one influences how we act on a daily basis. What we feel is a reflex in the body, what we say needs order, and what we think gives a meaning to everything we are. Therefore, developing these skills not only improves our communication, but also our personal and emotional well-being. Thank you for joining me in this video. I hope this information helps you get to know yourself better and communicate it with more awareness and empathy. Thank you so much.